Good morning. We're here in Austin, Texas, capital of the state of Texas. We're about to provide service on the Supreme Court of the state of Texas on behalf of the affected litigants here within the state of Texas. When a state chooses to enact its own alternative legislation and substitute it for the provisions guaranteed in the Constitution, that would be an unconstitutional act. The supreme law of the land is the overarching requirements that all the states must follow. Without adherence to those requirements, we don't have a nation. So the only thing that binds together each one of these states is the Constitution of the United States of America. We must adhere to those requirements. So when a state chooses to enact its own alternative legislation, allowing for prosecuting attorneys to charge by way of information, not by indictment, in violation of Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution, that would be an unconstitutional act. When that prosecuting attorney relies upon that inferior state statute to deprive a person of the right of the indictment by a grand jury, and thus depriving that individual of the right guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, that would be a crime. It's deprivation of rights under color of law, Title 18, subsection 242, which states, any person who, under color of any state statute, ordinance, custom, or regulation, deprives any person of the rights secured by the Constitution, commits that crime. This is the per se crime, meaning we don't have to prove that they intended to breach their obligation. Simply by virtue of the breach, all elements of crime have been met because their willfulness and knowledge derives from the promise that they make. So we need to make sure that these public officials understand that the requirements that they have, the oaths that they took, all dictates and mandates that they must adhere to the requirements that the Constitution of the United States establishes. So these states, they may not institute their own alternative legislation and then direct their agents to act in violation of the Constitution. That would be illegal and unconstitutional. So we need to make sure that this gets addressed. We're going to go to the Supreme Court right now. We're going to ask them to step up, discharge the duties of their office, fulfill the promise they made to the people of the state of Texas, and hold criminals accountable for the crimes they commit. And failure to do so means that they will themselves become implicated within the criminal conspiracy. Thank you so much.
Hey, how are you? So we have ongoing federal litigation that's at the United States Supreme Court, and we are needing to provide service on the state of Texas, make sure that Texas is aware of the situation. So Texas is not currently enjoined. The case is actually against the state of Washington, but there are attributes of it that Texas needs to be aware of. So what we need the justices to do is we need them to take a look at the situation and direct the agents of the state to act in a lawful and constitutional manner. Everything is contained within this. The first page, certificate of service, my contact information on the inside. There are 2 affidavits on behalf of the Cotson family and the Ferguson family. It's very, very self-explanatory, very, very simple. When a state chooses to enact its own alternative legislation and substitutes that for the guarantees of the United States Constitution, that would be an unconstitutional act. So when the state of Texas chose to enact a law that permitted them to charge by way of information, not by indictment, that would be unlawful. So we need the justices to be made aware. This is providing notice on behalf of those families.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Can I get a name, sir?
Yeah, my name's Brad.
Brad, thank you. Are you a clerk, deputy?
Clerk, yeah.
Thank you so much, Brad. God bless you. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Service has been provided on behalf of the Cotson family and the Ferguson family to the Supreme Court of the state of Texas for the crimes of deprivation of rights and club law, conspiracy to deprive of rights, kidnapping, and other crimes is ascertainable by the evidence on the record. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. We're here in Austin, Texas, at the Capitol building, here at the Rotunda. And just moments ago, we provided service on the state of Texas on behalf of affected litigants here within the state of Texas for the deprivation of rights and club law, this indictment issue that I keep talking about. So, with regard to indictments, Clause 1 of Amendment 5 says no person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. That's clear. You must have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or an infamous crime. However, here in the state of Texas, they decided to enact their own alternative legislation that permits their prosecuting attorneys to charge by way of information, not by indictment, at the prosecutor's discretion. Well, unfortunately, you can't have a constitutional right be by individual's discretion, because that would permit the prosecuting attorney to be able to decide who gets the constitutional right and who does not. That would make that law unequal because it affects certain parts of society unequally. Government officials have no right to be able to apply discretion with regard to one's obligations. The Constitution creates the obligations. Those obligations must be adhered to. You cannot abuse your discretion in order to violate the law. Therefore, any law that's created by a state that permits the prosecuting attorneys to disregard an obligation would either be unconstitutional through the establishment of a law that impairs the obligation contracts, or through the equal protection provision of the 14th Amendment that says that no state shall create any law that does not provide equal protection of the law. So when the state of Texas enacted its own alternative legislation and then substituted it for the guarantees of the United States Constitution, that was an act of sedition. Sedition is defined as the speaking or writing of words, such as law established, in order to cause disaffection to the Constitution to procure its alteration in another unlawful manner. There's one way to change the Constitution, and that can be found in Article 5, Special Amending Procedure. And that is not done by a state creating its own law, and then imposing its will upon the rest of the nation. These states must act in aggregate, and they act in aggregate through the laws of the United States, particularly the Constitution of the United States, because that's the only thing that binds the country together. All of these states have the relationship that's established through the laws of the United States. There's nothing else that makes the United States other than the United States laws. So we have to come back and recognize that the supreme law of the land, that the establishment of our relationship, what we believe in, what we have faith in, is that Constitution. So when we don't follow it, we can see a lot of chaos, such as we have today. You know, we've got all kinds of problems all across this country that we need to get addressed, and we're going to get addressed by simply returning to faith in the established rule of law. These government officials need to understand that when you choose to rely upon an inferior state statute that permits you to act contrary to the Constitution of the United States, that's still a crime. It's a crime of treason. So when you swear an oath to something and you fail to fulfill that oath, particularly the Constitution, then refusal to enforce the body of laws to govern this nation is an act of treason. So we need all these government officials, particularly here within the states, to understand that what is important is the preservation of the country, okay? And that means that we need to adhere to certain societal relationships and certain societal requirements that we're going to give up independently for the greater good of all. So no state has the authority to be able to create its own laws and then act contrary to what the Constitution of the United States permits, because that would be warring against the will of the people. The people have decided how they want to be governed. They've given you those requirements, government, and now you must govern in accordance with that. And if you do not, then you are committing crimes. You are going against the will of the people, and that's an act of treason. So we just provided service on the state Supreme Court, Texas State Supreme Court, and we're asking those justices to step up and to recognize the fact that these judges work for them, and these judges are breaking the law. Because remember, a criminal is simply one that transgresses the law. It doesn't matter if it's constitutional, if it's a state statute. If you break the law, you transgress the law, you are a criminal. So I've shown them where the law stands. I've shown them that this is what the law states. This is what your obligations are, and you guys are clearly operating outside of it. And as a result, that means you are a criminal. And you will remain a criminal until such time as you return to the established rule of law. Well, as a criminal breaking the law, when you produce an outcome as a result of a criminal act, what you produce is criminal. So nothing that you guys are doing in the state of Texas is lawful because you're not acting lawfully. Therefore, you're not producing a lawful outcome. So we need the justices to understand the situation, gravity of the situation, and to know that now that I provided notice to them, that they have a very, very limited amount of time to be able to act and make a decision. And what we need, the decision we need them to make is that they're in charge of these agents, these judges. They're a responsible party for them. And so if they permit this to continue even one more day, then you are knowingly and willingly warning against the Constitution of the United States, committing the act of treason. And so we need these justices to step up. We need them to discharge the duties of their office, fulfill the obligations and promises they made to the people of the state of Texas, and enforce the laws of the United States. And if they don't do that, then we're going to bring them in, and we will name them as defendants in the action, because the laws of criminal conspiracy with regard to public officials says any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in the prevention of the commission of same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be joined as defendants in the action. Justices, you are responsible for these individuals. I have just provided you notice through your agent to clerk of court, and now you have a duty responsibility to act. If you fail to do so, you will be named as defendants in the action. We will be coming after you next for your acts of treason against the people of the United States. Thank you so much. God bless. Have a great day.
Hip-hop diet is full of guys who cannot even rap. Facts. Media dividing us by colors, white or black. Facts. If you believe in Jesus, these days Christians get attacked. Facts. If you don't hate police, then everybody thinks you're whack. And everything's so connected. Black Lives Matter got so aggressive. White folks who agree can't support the message. Both sides go to war because they don't respect it. Our social climate from the global tension turned to total violence and a whole depression. We could unify and then I'll go against them, but we let them divide us with votes and elections. Hey, the music we bump, all about shooting guns and doing drugs. Hey, whoa. The things that we want are promoted subliminally through the songs, like you need a fast car, you need designer clothes, you need a rap star to tell you to start popping pills, hit the blunt and go live at the club till you're broke. It's all controlled by the